going forward. One of these cards says simply, speak on anti-Israel, anti-Semitism connection. And I had a question about this, so I can amplify that a little bit. Maybe for Robert, but anyone who wants to surely it's an easy question to answer. My question that I had prepared is it inherently anti-Semitic to criticize Israel? Are there ways to present that criticism without being anti-Semitic? I think there's a lot of confusion about this issue, and I wonder if anyone is brave enough to walk us through how you walk that fine line. Robert, maybe?
Okay, I do, Willie. You want
You're up, Robert.
Okay, one thing that I would say, in Israel itself, there's a very vigorous debate about what the policies of the country should be. So, I mean, I think things have gotten more divided and more in Israel recently too. So I think that didn't have, I think it's become a more fraught issue in Israel itself, but in general, throughout its history of, let's say, 100 years, there's always been a question of what the policies of the Zionist movement, what the policies of the government should be. Now, that being said, so I believe very strongly that one doesn't have to support the policies of the current administration in Israel to be pro-Israel or pro-Zionist. But I do think that very often the lines do get blurred. So I think there are a lot, I don't mean in Israel, but I mean in the United States. There are many times when things that are anti-Semitic things are disguised in the rhetoric of anti-Zionism. But I think for people who are sensitive to it, it's pretty easy to tell when which it is when. So I guess not so short, but in fairly brief words, I would say that it is possible to be lovers of the state of Israel and still be critical of the policies of the government. But
I would say the things that we often look at are sort of the 3D test that Nathan Sharansky had developed years ago, which is Israel being treated, is there a double standard in how Israel is being treated or analyzed? Is Israel being delegitimized by denying Israel's right to exist? Are the Jewish people being denied the right to a homeland? And is Israel being demonized? And so there is a way to sort of look at, so it's one thing to criticize the leader of Israel or any other country, but are you denying the Jews the right to a homeland? And I think once you start getting into delegitimizing Israel, treating Israel with a double standard different than any other country in the world, and demonizing, then I think you're starting to cross the line from legitimate criticism to anti-Semitism.
And also, I guess along with what you're saying, criticizing Israel for things that you don't criticize other countries who are probably, a lot of countries who are much more extreme in the same things that you're criticizing Israel about.
I'm going to ask this question is for Robert from the audience. What are you doing to address anti-Semitism in public schools?
So we ADL, we actually run an anti-bias education program, and we're in now 107 schools across New England where we have a peer training model where in middle and high school students get 18 hours of anti-bias education, and they go and work with other students. I will tell you, it is not a program designed specifically to teach kids about anti-Semitism. And frankly, most public schools are not going to bring in a program that's going to be designed for one kind of hatred. But the program really works on changing school culture. And how do you ensure that a school culture is one where no child, regardless of who they are, is targeted? So we teach kids about anti-Semitism, but we teach kids about racism as well, and we have teams of educators that work on that. The other piece, really quick, is Rhode Island just passed legislation mandating Holocaust genocide education in all public schools. It's now Oregon was the state that the governor in Oregon just signed this law a few days ago. It's now in 11 states. We are working in that. There's a bill in Massachusetts, and we are trying to get genocide education mandated for all public schools in Massachusetts. And you talk about the issue of partisanship. Well, the bill now has 94 co-sponsors, bipartisan support, and I do think that if you think about what do you want, the lessons of unchallenged hatred are really the lessons of the Armenian genocide, Darfur, Rwanda, the Holocaust. And as we get farther away from these genocides with fewer and fewer people who can talk about it in the first person, we need to be educating, today's teens and the children who are not yet born. We need to be teaching them about this now.
So we've run out of time for questions, unfortunately, but I do want to give each of you a chance to leave us with some parting words of how we can be proactive, what we can do with the energy that we're feeling, maybe the nervous energy, maybe the fired up energy. Why don't we start with you, Rabbi?
I'm probably going to recap a lot of what has been said. I think education is essential. It's a fundamental building block. And as it was said earlier, to reach people at a young enough age so that before they become rigidified in their beliefs. I think it's very valuable and very important, essential, to support organizations that fight bias and fight bigotry, such as the ADL. Another thing, this goes with what Victoria was saying, in our own community, my wife, Cantor Shoshana Brown, has done a lot to organize a program called Exploring the Faith of Our Neighbors, which has had a really great response. We did it after the incident, after the vigil that we had because of the desecration of our cemetery, maybe that has also catalyzed the community to make people come, because we've had a great turnout and people really get to know each other. We've had different speakers from different religious faith traditions talk, share their beliefs, and it opens up not when you get to know other people, they no longer are some abstraction that you can have, they become humanized to you. People who may not be the same as you, they become humanized. And I think that you getting to know people as individuals, I think it will also make a big difference. So I encourage you all to do that.
I'm going to segue from that to say that we do have to get to know each other better. The people in the Black community needs to come and understand more what's going on with the Jewish community here in Rhode Island, be a part of the Jewish Alliance, to understand the issues much, much better. And I would hope that everyone here would consider being a member of the NAACP, an organization who was founded by blacks and Jews working together in 1909. Our first chairman of the board was Joel Spingarn, and we honor him even to this day. Our highest award at our national convention is the Spingarn Medal. So there's always been that connection. So what we need to do is be more intentional here in Rhode Island. I remember an incident that happened a year ago at Bishop Hendricken High School. Some of you might remember that the principal was on camera, but he didn't know he was on camera, talking about, I gotta take care of those N-word and those K-word people, and then things will be better around here. All right, so Channel 12 got a copy and I got a copy. I couldn't open mine up. Channel 12 said, let's come to Channel 12, let's open it up together. We want to get your reaction. I was appalled that a principal of a high school, a teacher, somebody that deals with youth would be spouting in any context the N-word and the K-word. And I know some people under 35, even here, might not even know what the K-word is because it's such an archaic term that you don't even hear that anymore. But he was smiling and using it. And I was so happy that our communities came together. I got a call from Adam, head of the Jewish Alliance, and we talked, and the next thing you know, we had a meeting with the leadership of Bishop Hendricken to kind of both work our way to something more positive in terms of a very bad situation. That principal was gone within 24 hours. Bishop Tobin, it was 24 hours, he was gone. I didn't even know he was gone, and Channel 10 was asking me, well, what do you think of the principal stepping down? I said, stepping down? Well, how's he stepping down? It just happened yesterday. So swift action, I'm glad to see it, but I'm also glad that me and Adam, who's your director here at the Jewish Alliance, have worked. I think every 2 or 3 months, Adam, every 3 months, we've met with the new principal there now. We've met with the leadership to talk about education in terms of the Jewish community, the black community, more sensitivity, having more people on staff, having more students coming in that are black and Jewish at Bishop Hendricken. And I think that that partnership can only flourish and be stronger. But I want it to be just more than us two talking about a particular incident, a particular school. It should be our communities coming together much more. We got to know each other. There needs to be events that are here where the black community is here in force, and events in terms of the NAACP with the Jewish community is here. And of course, I'm going to do a shameless plug. We have a breakfast this Saturday at the Marriott at 8:30, and everyone is invited. Everyone is invited to this breakfast at 8:30. And I think that's one way of us coming together. Thank you.
Courage. I think we all need to exercise courage for ourselves, for our community, and for our neighbors. And, you know, there's a tremendous amount of power in this room. You know, if every single person in this room exercised a little bit of courage, had a conversation with one other person, and, you know, we need to support each other. I mean, we need to stand up for ourselves, but we need to stand up for others as well. And this is the time to do it. And actually, a full room, this is a good sign. This is a good sign that there's a full room here. And now we need to take it we need to take it outside.
I think everyone has said much of what I would say. In another shameless plug for our organization, we do work on a number of issues that are impacting the state, and we welcome anyone to join with us in those efforts. On the table outside when you leave, there'll be a list of priority issues that we are working on. And if you are interested in learning more or having someone come talk to your congregation, please let me know. It's a wonderful way to unify people across the state on issues that impact us all. Finally, I think the theme that I've heard from everyone on the panel, and one that I want to leave people here with today, is this idea of solidarity. And I think we've said it in a couple different ways, which is unity and coming together. But solidarity is something that's actually one of the hardest things to do as a person, as people of faith. Authentic solidarity, understanding your neighbor, viewing your neighbor as yourself, is something that is so critical as we move forward. So I just want to read this definition of solidarity because I think it might leave us with an understanding of how we can move forward if we're really going to eliminate some of the hate and the issues that we've talked about today. So solidarity is not a feeling of vague compassion or shallow distress at the misfortunes of so many people, both near and far. On the contrary, it is a firm and preserving determination to commit oneself to the common good. That is to say, to the good of all and of each individual, because we are all really responsible for each other. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your thoughtful input. I didn't plan to say this, but it occurred to me I have my own shameless plug. And I'm not saying this on behalf of any news organization because I'm a freelancer, but supporting your local independent news organizations is really good for just about whatever ails the community. I'm not speaking on behalf of that newspaper in New Hampshire for sure, but I will say that one of the ways we get to better understand each other is through robust, healthy news organizations. I think I'm going to hand it off to our anchor for the evening. Thank you all.